Coming off their first playoff appearance in 7 years, the New York Knicks' plan last summer seemed to be quite simple, and that is to not overreact to such a surprising return to the postseason, but to instead keep building the team slowly by either gathering more draft picks or signing more short-term deals, before eventually taking a swing at a bona fide star-level talent when he becomes available. However, the team's 37-45 record last season made that kind of strategy feel like a step back for the franchise. But the good thing is, right now, the Knicks actually find themselves in a position to move towards the next phase of the team's rebuild, as after a wild start to the 2022 offseason marked by the team trading the number 11 pick in the draft and by acquiring Jalen Brunson via a 4-year $104 million deal, there's suddenly a 25-year-old three-time All-Star who's actually available on the trade market in the form of Donovan Mitchell. And looking at it, the Knicks have both the requisite stockpile of future draft assets and young talented players that they could offer the Utah Jazz in exchange for Mitchell. Well, without a doubt, Utah would be demanding a massive trade package for their young All-Star, but even in today's NBA environment, which demands instant results from teams who just acquired a star-level player, I really think the New York Knicks could easily justify giving up multiple first-round picks and pick swaps, plus a couple of young pieces for Donovan Mitchell, even without the team winning, say, around 55 games next season. Because if you look at it, this doesn't even have to be a win-now move for New York. This isn't like the Brooklyn Nets giving up a lot for an end-of-his-prime version of James Harden or something. Because again, Donovan Mitchell is only 25 and is coming off arguably the best season of his career, as he averaged 25.6 points, 4.2 rebounds, and 5.3 assists on career high-level efficiency last season. Plus, Donovan Mitchell still also has 4 years left on his current deal at $135 million, which is definitely a fair salary for a young guy who's been an NBA All-Star for the past 3 seasons and is arguably also one of the top 12 guards in the entire league. So what's good, guys? It's Real Boss here, and for the rest of this video, we'll look into why a Donovan Mitchell trade to the New York Knicks just makes too much sense for it not to happen. But one sec, if you guys do enjoy the content, please make sure to hit that like button or to click that subscribe button. It only takes a second of your time, but it would be much appreciated. So let's get to it. First of all, I think all of this Donovan Mitchell trade talk to New York should start with one question, and that is he really the right star to go all in for? Well, the thing is, even without knowing how exactly he'll fit alongside Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle, or potentially RJ Barrett, what we know is Donovan Mitchell is a legitimate offensive machine. In fact, he's one of only 12 players to average at least 25 points and 5 assists per game over the past 2 seasons. Also, the Utah Jazz finished as a top 10 offensive team in each of the past 3 years, including a number 1 ranked finish last season, largely because of Mitchell, who's one of the most versatile shot creators and one of the most potent 3-level scorers in the entire NBA, who has the ability to get buckets in a variety of ways. Last season, Mitchell averaged 1.03 points per possession as the ball handler in pick-and-roll situations, which is the 6th best mark among the 132 most frequent pick-and-roll ball handlers in the entire league. And for all the talk in Utah about the value of Rudy Gobert as a screener, the thing is, Donovan Mitchell is also capable of scoring without using ball screens, as the 1.04 points per possession he registered in isolation plays actually ranked 11th best among the 61 most high-frequency isolation players in the NBA last season. All in all, Mitchell combines his lightning-quick first step to beat defenders off the bounce together with his strength and touch to finish around the paint efficiently, as the 10.3 points per game he scored off drives last season was actually the 5th best in the entire league. But even when defenders play off him to try and stop his rim attack, he could still torch them by immediately pulling up, as last season, only Trae Young, Luka Doncic, and Steph Curry had both attempted and made more pull-up 3-pointers than Donovan Mitchell, who also did shoot more than 35% on those pull-up 3-point attempts despite both the volume and the degree of difficulty. And lastly, Mitchell can also be a threat away from the ball, as he's also actually made 40% of his catch-and-shoot 3-point attempts for his entire career. So in essence, I think Donovan Mitchell would provide just about everything New York wanted to get from Kemba Walker last season, the difference being Mitchell has 7 less years of wear and tear on his body than Kemba Walker. Well, sure, Mitchell is more of a combo guard than a pure playmaker, but looking at it, he's actually taken steps as a facilitator over the years, as as he's constantly improved his assist numbers every season while also maintaining a reasonable assist rate and turnover frequency during the playoffs in relation to his regular season numbers. So to me, a guy who's that good is definitely going to be worth a lot of trade pieces from any team who wants to acquire him, especially when this guy is someone who's just about to enter his prime and someone who still has 3 more years guaranteed on his current deal. And most especially when you're a team like the New York Knicks, who has struggled to create scoring opportunities last season and who has failed to produce a top 10 offense over the past decade, you can just see why Donovan Mitchell appears as someone very attractive. But to be fair, there are also reasons as to why people aren't really considering Mitchell to be a top 10 player in the NBA as phenomenal as he is. I think it's partly due to the fact that he's still prone to having tunnel vision at times, and that he still lacks the elite ability to manipulate defenders when compared to other young all-star guards like Trae Young or Luka Doncic. But most of the skepticism is definitely due to Mitchell's defense, as over the past few seasons, the most common defensive advanced metrics like the defensive box plus minus and the defensive estimated plus minus point to Mitchell as someone who has a negative impact as a defender, even when compared to other score-first guards who also aren't known to be good defenders like James Harden, Luka Doncic, and Ja Morant. But as we've seen in the past, it's definitely possible for high-scoring guards to tighten up defensively, as has been the case with Steph Curry and Devin Booker. Plus, guys like James Harden, Trae Young, and Luka Doncic were all able to make the conference finals as the best players on their teams because they were actually surrounded by capable multi-positional defenders. So in this case, the Knicks are definitely expected to build the right kind of supporting defensive infrastructure around Mitchell moving forward. And while pairing him with Jalen Brunson in the backcourt wouldn't really address those defensive issues, if I'm New York, I'd still definitely be happy to have Donovan Mitchell and Jalen Brunson in my backcourt rather than Kemba Walker and Alec Burks. But realistically, it's worth noting that a version of this New York team that has Donovan Mitchell as its best player I think would still rank behind Jason Tatum's Celtics, Giannis Antetokounmpo's Bucks, Embiid's 76ers, and Jimmy Butler's Heat in the Eastern Conference's pecking order. But like I said earlier, this shouldn't stop New York from going after Mitchell as long as they intend to bring him in while still having the pathway to pair him with potentially another star in the future. Well, the thing is, the Knicks have missed on a lot of free agents before, but with Donovan Mitchell on the team, things would suddenly change as the Knicks would just have an aggressive and exciting young all-star, which is exactly the kind of player that could make the Knicks competitive enough to attract another star in the next few years. But also, we have to remember that the Knicks have already filled up their cap sheet this summer, and it would also be difficult for them to create space for a possible big free agent signing in 2023 or 2024. Because if they acquire Donovan Mitchell, keep RJ Barrett, and sign Barrett to a max or a near max deal, then the team's potential starting five of Brunson, Mitchell, Barrett, Julius Randle, and Mitchell Robinson alone would already send the team above the cap in 2024. But again, over the past few years, we've seen that teams have ways of acquiring stars if they want to. Even players nowadays don't really need to leave in free agency as they can just sign an extension, take the money, and demand a trade. So I think the Knicks could still realistically trade for another star in the summer of 2024, especially considering both Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson would each have only 1 year guaranteed remaining on their deals by that time, because they both have player options for the 2025 to 2026 season. And by that time, Donovan Mitchell would only be 27 and RJ Barrett would only be 24, and those two guys together with another star in his prime could form a really strong core for the New York Knicks. But for now though, whether or not Donovan Mitchell lands in New York depends on Danny Ainge and if the Utah Jazz can actually find another team that's capable of offering a better trade package than what the Knicks can offer for Mitchell. The good news for Knicks fans is right now, that doesn't really seem likely. Cause even if Miami turns its focus on Mitchell, the best package they could probably offer is something like Tyler Herro, Duncan Robinson, Nikola Jovic, plus a couple of first rounders. Same goes for the Brooklyn Nets. They would probably need to come away with additional draft capital from a Kevin Durant or Kyrie Irving trade first before they could really satisfy Utah's asking price. Well, another surprise team might emerge, but overall, I think New York just has the best combination of assets to possibly engineer a Donovan Mitchell trade. Cause ideally, Honestly, even in a situation wherein they keep RJ Barrett, New York could still send Utah at least 2 of Obi Toppin, Quentin Grimes, Immanuel Quickley, and Miles McBride, together with at least 3 of the team's unprotected first-round picks from 2023 to 2026, plus maybe a couple of pick swaps. Then finally, they can add either one of Evan Fournier, Derrick Rose, or Cam Reddish to make salaries work, and I think that would already be the most substantial package available out there for Donovan Mitchell, provided no other excessive bid from other teams would materialize over the next couple of weeks. At the end of the day, what we know for sure is that Utah's asking price for Mitchell is massive, but at this point, the New York Knicks are just better equipped than any other team to acquire him this 2022 offseason. And the Knicks have all the right reasons to go after him, because there's a pretty good chance Donovan Mitchell just might be the guy who could jumpstart the Knicks' transition towards building a contending team once again. So what do you guys think is a reasonable package that the New York Knicks can offer the Utah Jazz for Donovan Mitchell? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section below, and again, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing as well. Again, this is Real Balls, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.